I guess. So I caught a bit of the Roland Martin interview, what he did with Chris Christie. I think it was two other women, and it was on Meet the Press. Or it might have been the one with the got a long name, where Chris Christie's talking about how I was against Trump and all this, and Roland Martin pretty much held him to task on the matter that you just recently started going against Trump. And it got me. Chris Christie's response was arrogance of, I can rest with you not trusting my morals or something. I'm just like, that's like the police bringing you in and saying, we believe you murdered somebody. And you're like, well, I can sleep with you guys and liking me. Like, it's just the arrogance of that. That I don't have to worry about you because I know you're a Democrat and you're black. So I'm not even going to, like that. There's just something about that really hit me of just why I say, I'm not a Republican, and Republicans can say something good here and there, but that these are very minor, inconsistent things. So there's a young lady on there that made a point up to Roland Martin, and it's just talking, and she opened her mouth and she just said nothing for like 5 minutes, and it was just basically 5 minutes of just talking at the room. Not the camera, not the people, just talking at them of like, well, Roland, if you want to get these people, then, and I'm just like, I'm looking at something now saying that Trump is dominating the party. He's dominating even now the party. And it brought it home to me, that young lady talking about this just BS about just nothing. Listen, the people she's talking about want Trump. They ain't going to change. In the last, what has it been? In the last 3 years, 3.5 years, you had the January 6th hearings, which they had plenty of people come up and tell you about how Trump knew violence was coming. He told Secret Service to take the bill to take this down, let people in with the guns. He said, not going to hurt me. He wanted to go down to the Capitol and march with them. We've had Mark Esper come out and do a conversation with Vice. We've had plenty of people come out and tell little snippets and little asides and anecdotal stories of what the presidency, that administration was really like. And it was dark. We've had a House bill that came out showing you that the intelligence agencies did their job. They warned Trump. He was briefed back in December. He did nothing for 2 months. He did nothing. We had Mark Bright come out. Rick Bright, leader of BARDA. And he talked about how he was talking to a gentleman that makes masks in America. And the gentleman was telling him about, hey, America's effed and we're not ready for what's coming. And he was demoted. He talked about how there were corporations, there were governments reaching out to him wanting to buy the machinery used to make masks. Not just masks. They wanted to buy the stuff they used to make the masks. And that he was hearing about this from other people as well. Rick Bright went out there and talked to the White House, got no response for weeks. Their response was to send out a survey to the companies asking the same thing. It's too late. That's how Trump's administration handled COVID. That's how Trump's administration handles crisis, is that ignore them. They don't exist because crisis doesn't matter to them. It isn't. It's got to always be good. They don't want to talk about, because ultimately when you get into crisis stuff, you're starting to get to, this is the world that we warned you about when you get rid of the pandemic response team. This is what happens. This is in the real world, when you don't have car insurance, when you don't have certain kinds of things, you lose it all. Yeah, you could lose big. And for Republicans, they don't want to, go into that. It got me that looking at this, it's a reminder that they've had 3.5 years, more than that, to learn about all the devious, diabolical, wicked shit Trump and his administration did to this country. If you don't get that they warned him in December about COVID. He did nothing about it. Wouldn't wear a mask. He thought it would make him look. He didn't like the way it made him look. If you're not concerned about these things, I'm just not concerned about your opinion. Period. This isn't 2020. This isn't 2021. We're nearing the end of 2023. And if Republicans are telling you ultimately that they don't care and they want him in there, they want a second dose, a second serving of BS, there's no reason to be done with them. It's like when Dillinger was robbing banks and people in Chicago were protecting him. There's no reason to be done with that. People who are harboring criminals, violent criminals. There's no reasoning to be done. The proof is in the pudding. You can see what's going on. At some point, you have to recognize the part of the country is gone, and the part of the country was given, I won't say given a mandate, but was given freedom, was given space to carry forward some really ugly ideas, and I worry about violence if he gets elected. If he doesn't get elected, a lot of folks think he won't get reelected. One thing Trump showed me was the power of running for office. When you run for office, you're able to get your ideas out there, and you're able to, you're able to actually carry forward your beliefs, and people can maybe hear things they didn't hear before. That's powerful. What happens on that stage debating, whoever the Democrat is? It concerns me. And once again, same thing with your Tim Scott and all them other people. If I'm a white man and I believe America's great and that black people need to just shut up and sit down and that Mexicans need to just go somewhere, if I really believe these kind of things, I want to vote for a black man or an Indian or a white woman, an Indian woman, whatever her name is, Nikki Haley. I think she's a sheik or something originally. Why would I vote for these people? I'd vote for Trump. You had black conservatives because Obama was running, and they wanted to run an alternate without seeming racist. That was it. That's why you saw them put forward Mitt Romney. That's why you saw it was a different area. That's why you saw Mr. Steele. He was the leader of the RNC. You put a black man over the RNC. That's why. That was those were tools for a particular time. That wasn't indicative of a shift in politics. That was just, if I go out in the rain, I wear a raincoat. If you go out in the heat, you wear a hat, right? You bring some water with you. That's a tool. Those for a specific moment and a specific obstacle. If you're going into, that's what you do. And that's what's funny to me is that anybody else thinks, because Republicans have done nothing to bring up or oppose what Trump did. So we've had 3 years of ignoring, as well as, I guess, kind of idealizing what he did, what his administration did. And so now, whoever's meeting the road, of course they're going to vote for him again. Why wouldn't they? They don't believe what we say. They don't believe Democrats. They don't believe in what the government's telling you about his crimes. They don't believe in what Georgia's saying. They don't believe in what the DA out there in Georgia and the DA in down there in Florida is saying. How would anything be any different? So I just, they don't believe what I think Fannie Lewis is her name. They don't believe what she's saying. You have to acknowledge at some point, you have to let certain elements go, or you start to harm your own movement. Yes, Michael Brooks made it very clear that, we're not pushing people away for, viewpoints and things that don't really matter. But at some point, if you're really willing to overlook a guy that carried out a pandemic and wasted months on a pandemic and did nothing, and then told someone on tape, I chose the election over a pandemic. At some point there, you either acknowledge that's wrong or you're a sucker. He went on tape and said it. He chose the election over COVID. All them dead white people, all them old dead white people in Florida. I was surprised to see that a lot of them were really bothered by that. That a lot of them, a lot of white folk died. A lot of white folk died. A lot of them know people that died of COVID, and that bothered them. That surprised me. I always thought that for most of there's nothing we would agree on, but seeing the reality, seeing the reality of ignoring a pandemic, especially when you're elderly, it made an impact there. You know, I've said it before that when they talk about how this strain is weaker than the next strain, this week's strain, this is kind of a dark thought. This is my opinion. I think that we've already lost so many people in the country who are already ailing and sick and elderly. People who are already on a ventilator, people who are already on breathing apparatus, people who are already on some type of advanced life support. We've lost so many of them already that when you say less people have died in certain areas, that's because there are a lot of them already died. You know, or they were already sick and they couldn't go to a doctor because of the shutdowns and stuff, or they couldn't go to a doctor to treat cancer, or they couldn't go to a doctor to deal with other health problems that in the end killed them. Sometimes I think that's the reason why you have less numbers or the death rate is lesser. It's because you're looking at survival of the fittest literally now. I don't believe COVID will just go away. I don't believe it'll become a flu. It has not become a flu. Thanks for listening.